Hello everybody! I'm finally filming my upcoming 2017 releases that I am excited about. Things have been really delayed here. As you can see behind me, I don't have my living room put together again after house projects. Everything is run over time because of those unforeseen circumstances that arise with any large project. But you know, my house is livable again, so just excuse the mess behind me. So today's video is going to be novels and collections that are coming out in 2017 only through the first 6 months of the year, because at this point, after June, July, things get hazy and many things haven't been announced yet. So I learned my lesson from last year. I'm also going to do a video separate from this about Tor.com novellas that I'm excited for in the first 6 months of the year, because there were so many of them, I thought they deserved their own video. 3 of the books on this list I have already mentioned in my last upcoming 2016 releases video because they were delayed until 2017, and there's still some of my most anticipated releases that I have to mention them again here. On January 31st from Orbit, Six Wakes by Mur Lafferty is finally coming out. I got to hear Mur Lafferty read the first chapter of this book at Worldcon back in August, and I already knew I wanted to read it because it was science fiction. Come on, I want to read that. But the first part she read was really exciting, intriguing, lots of mystery, even some like gore, and I loved it. So I want to read it. And this is the description. A space adventure set on a lone ship where the murdered crew are resurrected through cloning to discover who their killer was and the secret to their mission. The Stars Are Legion by Kameron Hurley finally has a definitive release date on February 7th from Saga Press. The description says, somewhere on the outer rim of the universe, a mass of decaying world ships known as the Legion is traveling in the seams between the stars. Zan wakes with no memory, prisoner of a people who say they are her family. She is told she is their salvation, the only person capable of boarding the Mokshi, a world ship with the power to leave the Legion. Now, the bit that really strikes me about this description is that it's compared to The Fall of Hyperion and Dune, an epic and thrilling tale about tragic love, revenge, and war. But overall, I think I'm really looking forward to this one because I've really enjoyed Kameron Hurley's science fiction more than her fantasy, and this sounds like my kind of thing. Distant, far universe, world ships, stuff like that. And the other February release that I am really looking forward to is Seven Surrenders by Ada Palmer, coming out from Tor. This is the second book in the Terra Ignota series, and it's the sequel to Like the Lightning, which I loved. I did a review of. I've come to appreciate that book far more after reading it than when I read it, because it's challenging. I don't want to go into the description of this one too much because, frankly, the blurbs and such are pretty sparse, but it should be the second part of Mycroft Canner's narration of the 7 days where he is involved in the potential collapse of the world utopian government system and many other things. Another book from Tor is Luna Wolf Moon by Ian McDonald. This is another second book. It's the sequel to Luna New Moon, and it concerns Cortahilio, a family corporation on the moon that is attempting to solidify their power and become another dragon family. The first book ends explosively with many people dying and everything falling apart, and the second book picks up 18 months later, and the bit that intrigues me the most is that one of these surviving family members is supposed to go to Earth, which in the first book it's very firmly established that once you have been on the moon for a specific amount of time, you can't go back to Earth because, you know, bone density changes, your physiology changes and you can't withstand it anymore. So we got somebody who was born and raised on the moon is going on this impossible journey to Earth. I want to know what's up with that. There are 2 huge March releases that I think everybody is talking about because they're coming from like 2 of science fiction's current greats. The first one is New York 2140 by Kim Stanley Robinson. This is about a submerged New York City in the 22nd century, and it says, through the eyes of the varied inhabitants of one building, Robinson shows us how one of our great cities will change with the rising tides and how we too will change. Robinson is really well known for incorporating climate and environmental issues in his science fiction, and I really enjoy reading about those things. This particular topic about New York City in not very far future seems really timely right now, almost scarily so. So suffice it to say that I think many people are expecting this one, and I am no different. The other huge March release is, of course, The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi, which sounds like it's the launch of a new science fiction series. And I kind of avoided the description of this book for a while, but when I finally read it, I thought, that sounds really interesting. There's a concept here that I think is really cool. So it says, the universe is ruled by physics, and faster than light travel is not possible until the discovery of the flow, an extra-dimensional field that people can access at certain points in space-time that transport them to other worlds around other stars. But the flow is not static, and it changes its course, cutting off worlds from the rest of humanity. 3 individuals, a scientist, a starship captain, and an empress, are in a race against time to discover what, if anything, can be salvaged from an interstellar empire on the brink of collapse. Now, the flow as a extra-dimensional field is pretty similar to quite a few of those concepts of how you achieve FTL going into another dimension, wormholes and stuff like that. But I love the idea of this almost being like a river where it can change its course, you don't control it, you can't predict it, and it cutting people off. I admit that I kind of want this to be a more serious science fiction novel rather than the pretty humorous stuff that happens in the Old Man's War series, but if it is still infused with his brand of humor with new characters, I will be happy. Are you ready for another second book in a series? Phantom Pains by Mishell Baker is coming out from Saga Press in March as well. This is the sequel to Borderline, which I really loved. It's about a woman named Millie who has borderline personality disorder, and after a suicide attempt, she loses both of her legs and has mild brain damage, and she gets pulled into the Arcadia Project, which manages the fairies or fae who want to come into the human world. Phantom Pains is supposed to pick up with her kind of getting drawn back into the Arcadia Project to testify about seeing her dead partner's ghost, which is supposed to be impossible because ghosts don't exist, and then more tragedies ensue. Borderline was really well received for its portrayal of mental health problems and physical disabilities and a really action-oriented story, and I thought it worked amazingly, and I really wanted to read more about the character by the end of that book, so I hope that Phantom Pains will be just as fast-paced and thrilling a ride and just as well written. The first book from April that I want to talk about has a little bit of backstory to it. You may recall that back in 2015 I read the Vada's War series by Elizabeth Moon. It's a 5-book military science fiction series about Kai Vada, who throughout most of the series is attempting to rebuild and save her family's interstellar trading company when it is attacked, and there are many conspiracies going on. And then I found out that after 10 years, Elizabeth Moon, it seems, is launching a new series about Kailara Vada. I'm just letting that sink in for a moment. This book is called Cold Welcome and is coming out from Del Rey on April 13th. There's not much more to say than that. It has one of my favorite characters and one of my favorite series, and I expect there will be fantastically written space battles because Elizabeth Moon is really good at that. For something that is not a novel, there is Tender Stories by Sofia Samatar coming out on April 11th from Small Beer Press. And yes, this is Samatar's first short story collection. I think there are about 20 stories, and I've read maybe 5 or 6 of them because I had no idea that Samatar had written this much short fiction, so I already have this one pre-ordered. This is what the publisher has to say about it. Tender explores the fragility of bodies, emotions, and landscapes in settings that range from medieval Egypt to colonial Kenya to the stars, and the voices of those who question: children, students, servants, researchers, and writers. I absolutely love Samatar's style. She is lyrical and poetical, and she writes about the most interesting characters, so this is one collection I'm really looking forward to. In May, there's really only one book that I'm highly anticipating, and I've already read it, and that is Tremontaine Season 1 coming out from Saga Press on May 2nd. Tremontaine is a prequel series to the Riverside books by Ellen Kushner. Source Point is the one I've talked about so much from the Riverside series. Tremontaine follows a full cast of characters, including the Duchess Tremontaine, a scholar merchant, a mathematical genius, and a woman from a foreign land who all end up in Riverside with their various plots, conspiracies, illicit loves, and things like that. I thought the first season was fantastic. I thought it ended up having a great plot and some really, really wonderful characters. Micah is my favorite. The reason that I really recommend Tremontaine for people who have or have not read the Riverside books is that it is so much more diverse. People who have read the Riverside books know that canonically all people are supposed to be bisexual, which is really interesting. Except that all the books only feature gay men or people, women especially, in pretty heteronormative type relationships, and there really aren't that many women. But Tremontaine has everything. It has lesbian couples, gay couples, heterosexual couples. It has people of color. Finally, multiple people of color, and it introduces at least 2 other cultures outside of the Riverside one, and they're pretty fantastic. After that little dip into review land, let me cover the last 2 books quickly. In June, we have The Raven Stratagem by Yoon Hurley. I think this is coming out from Rebellion Publishing on the 13th. This is the sequel to Nine Fox Gambit, and I don't know what it's about because I haven't finished the first book. I'm in the middle of Nine Fox Gambit right now. I think I'm going to absolutely love it by the end. I'm gonna want the next book immediately, and now I have to wait. Don't spoil me for anything. The final book is The Refrigerator Monologues by Catherynne and Valente. This is coming out from Saga Press on June 6th. A series of linked stories from the points of view of the wives and girlfriends of superheroes, female heroes, and anyone who's ever been refrigerated. Comic book women who are killed, raped, brainwashed, driven mad, disabled, or had their powers taken so that a male superhero storyline will progress. Valente subversively explores these ideas and themes in the superhero genre, treating them with the same love, gravity, and humor as her fairy tales. And if there's one thing that I know this book will be, whether I like the story or the characters, or even if it really does subvert the trope or not, it will be beautifully written, because that is what Valente does really well. That is it for this massively long video about the books I'm anticipating in the first half of 2017, and like I said, there will be another video about the novellas that I'm also looking forward to. And until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you also are interested in any of these books, or if you think there are any that I missed and that I would enjoy, please comment down below, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.